This morning on Sky News, the Shadow Home Secretary personally vouched for the private beliefs of 6 of his own colleagues. He had sat around a table with them and they had fundamentally supported the party line. And then, roughly 90 seconds later, he told Trevor Phillips he had absolutely no idea what organisation those 6 colleagues publicly belong to actually stands for, because, in his words, he's not familiar with the group. Yes, Chris Philp has made a tit of himself on TV yet again. He's tried to defend a loyalty purge and ended up demonstrating live on air why you should never defend anything without checking who's on the list. So what's this all about? Well, Kemi Badenoch has decreed that you cannot stand as a Conservative candidate at the next election unless you back 3 things: leaving the European Convention of Human Rights, scrapping net zero target, and welfare reform. No exceptions, no conscience clause, no room for the version of Conservative Party that existed about 18 months ago, which, awkwardly, is a party several of the Shadow Cabinet were quite enthusiastic members of. So let's just hold that thought while Trevor Phillips opens with the obvious question.
When did the Stalinists take over the Conservative Party?
And Philp, to his, to be fair to him, starts off sounding like a man who actually believes it.
Well, I wouldn't say that is Stalinist. Look, I think there are some issues.
Yeah,
Trevor, hang on. There are some. Let me answer the question.
Church let me answer the question. Used to be the Conservative Party.
Let me answer the question. There are some issues that are so important and so fundamental to our political programme that they are not negotiable.
Absolutely non-negotiable. The public must be certain, he says, that when they elect a Conservative MP, that MP believes in the programme, which at face value sounds pretty reasonable. But remember the word certain, because it's about to do some very heavy lifting. Because Trevor Phillips does something that Chris Philp clearly hadn't prepared for. Homework.
The public have to be certain that when they elect a Conservative MP and a Conservative government, we're going to deliver what we say.
Yeah, but this is not theoretical. I looked up the membership of what's called the Conservative Environment Network. There are many MPs who are members of that, and it backs net zero. It includes shadow cabinet members James Cartledge, Helen Whately, Victoria Atkins, Mims Davis and Rebecca Harris, and the chairman of the Conservative Party, Kevin Hollingrake.
The Conservative Environment Network. It's like a group of people that exist specifically to champion net zero and green policy. At its peak, it counted around about half of all Tory backbenchers as members. And sitting on its current list, right now, as of today, Shadow Cabinet members James Cartledge, Helen Whately, Victoria Adams, and as Trevor Phillips pointed out, Kevin Hollingrake, the chairman of the Conservative Party. The man who runs the candidate machine that's meant to enforce the purge is, on paper, a member of the club the purge exists to purge, if that makes sense. Hollingrake's own website has a whole page about his Pride in Britain net zero target. It's still up, I've checked already, which puts me one check ahead of the Shadow Home Secretary. Now, watch what happens to a man defending a loyalty test when that list arrives.
On what you've just said, all of them are going to be looking for new jobs.
Well, I don't think that's true because
either
I don't know how
it's true or it's not true. Either you're sacking them or you're not.
Well, I think that all those people you just mentioned, who are Shadow Cabinet colleagues, I've sat in a room with them in the last few weeks or months, and they've unequivocally supported the policy programme.
They better get their names off the website of the Conservative Environment Network.
Oh, there we go then. He sat in a room with them. They've unequivocally supported scrapping net zero. He'd stake his mourning on it, which prompts his Phillips to point out that in that case, they might want to take their names off the website. And this is not where so much the wheels come off. They just fly into orbit.
Shouldn't they?
Well, I don't know what the policies of the Conservative Environment Network are, or indeed how historic...
I'm telling you, to support net zero.
I mean, it's probably rather historic. I'm not familiar with the group.
No.
Now, he's not familiar with the group whose membership he just personally vouched against. He knows exactly what 6 of its members believe in their hearts, but the organisation itself, that, well, is just a total mystery to him. Both of those things can't be true. Either he knows the CEN well enough to swear its own members don't agree with it, or he's never heard of it. He said both, inside of 2 minutes. And Phillips just lets that hang there with 4 words.
I looked it up yesterday.
Okay,
it's not historic.
I don't know how historic their policies are.
Now, I watch these interviews so that you don't have to, and I'll pick out the most important or interesting parts. And if that's what you like, then, if you haven't already, make sure you do subscribe. And if you'd like to support the channel, the memberships are open as well. Now, that was actually only the second strangest claim that Philp made this morning, because earlier, Phillips had asked him about violence in prisons, and Philp offered a theory of criminology that his own party's government spent money disproving.
Now, on your question about violence in prisons, that is a really serious issue. But I think you may be mistaking correlation with causality. I don't think necessarily the number of people in prison is a driver of prison violence, but lax security regimes certainly are.
Now, he says that overcrowding doesn't drive prison violence. I mean, it's absolute nonsense. But his proof that prisons aren't even overcrowded...
Well, I've just said there are currently, I believe, about 2,000 or 3,000 spare prison places. So on the government's own assessment of the prison estate's capacity, they are currently under that capacity. So by definition, they're not currently overcrowded.
What is this? By definition. Don't you just love it when a politician says by definition right before getting a definition wrong? Those spare places are measured against operational capacity, the absolute maximum you can physically cram into an estate once you've bolted a second bunk into cells designed for one person. The measure of what prisons are actually built to hold safely is a different number entirely. And against that one, the system is thousands of prisoners over. Being a few thousand under the cram limit while blowing straight past the design limit is precisely what overcrowding looks like. And on his correlation versus causality lecture, I'd love to introduce Chris to the people who settled this, the Ministry of Justice. Their published research found prisoners in overcrowded cells are 19% more likely to be involved in an assault. Using data from 2022, you know, when the Conservative Party was actually running the place, the government press release announcing it was headlined, and I promise I'm not making this up, "Overcrowded Jail Fuels Prisoner Violence." Philp's alternate explanation, meanwhile, included the immortal claim that drugs are being...
Drugs that are rife in prison. Prisoners are taking drugs the whole time, being smuggled in by drones, in body cavities, goodness knows what else.
And so his actual policy answer was prefabricated cells, and at which point he got very insistent they are not porta cabins, thank you.
Where they'd got these rapidly deployable prefabricated cell units built within the secure perimeter. There are things like that the government could and should look at doing rather than letting rapists out early. On your question about overcrowding
you're
and
about
violence...
porta cabins, and there's security issues about
I wouldn't
that,
use the word. They're not porta cabins, and they are within the secure perimeter. But and they are being used at the moment, right? This is not a fanciful idea.
He's seen them with his own eyes. A man whose flagship prison policy requires him to open with what it definitely isn't. Now, credit where credit is due. One moment that Philp visibly enjoyed was attacking reform over the £5 million crypto gift and convicted fraudster in Farage's inner circle. And I just love it when the right wing go after the right wing.
They have, great slogans, I'll give them that, but they don't have serious, credible policies that have been thought through, and nor is the Conservative Party embroiled in various financial scandals. None of us have taken a £5 million personal gift from a Thailand-based crypto billionaire, and none of us rely on a convicted fraudster as our right-hand man, which appears to be the case with this George Cottrell
I gave you a couple of free hits there, but...
And fair play, every word of that was pretty much accurate. I've made like 6-7 videos on this already. But it does tell you something that when the most factually reliable 90 seconds of your interview is the part about another party. Because Philp's whole argument this morning, his one big idea, was certainty. The public must be certain that a Conservative MP believes what a Conservative Party says. And what the public actually got was the Shadow Home Secretary swearing blind to the convictions of 6 colleagues who were on the membership of an organisation he then claimed he'd never heard of, while denying research his own party's government published about a prison estate his own party filled. And this isn't even the first time that Chris Philp's run into something with his own party's fingerprints on it. He spent one recent morning across 2 different channels furious about the legal loophole blocking a grooming gang's ringleader's deportation. And he somehow never got round to mentioning who actually wrote the law for that loophole, and just how close his own desk the answer lands. Well, that video is on screen now, so go watch that next. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.